They said it was just another court hearing. But by the time the gavel fell, one man's entire career and reputation was already dead. It started with a laugh. A smirk? Really. The kind of look that tells you everything you need to know about someone before they even open their mouth. Attorney Daniel Harkins, age 47, corporate defense superstar, had built his name on arrogance. He didn't just win cases. He humiliated people in the process. He loved the spotlight, the cameras, the applause. But this time, his pride would destroy him. The client sitting across from him wasn't who he expected. Marcus Reed, 34 years old. Quiet, calm, black man in a Navy suit that didn't scream money. Just a man trying to fight a lawsuit against a small security firm, a company he built from nothing. Daniel looked over Marcus's file, then back up at him. "You don't have much of a case," he said flatly. Marcus blinked. "Excuse me." I said. Daniel repeated, leaning back in his chair, "You're wasting your time. These corporate claims are airtight. You're hopeless." Silence. Marcus didn't argue, didn't even flinch. He just stared at Daniel for a long, cold moment, then smiled faintly. "Let's see what the judge thinks," he said, standing to leave. Daniel laughed. "The judge? Please. I played golf with him for years." But Marcus didn't respond. He simply walked out. The next morning, Daniel strutted into court like a man heading to a victory parade. His assistant trailed behind, juggling files. He didn't even bother to look at the nameplate on the bench until he heard the bailiff's voice. "All rise for the Honorable Judge Harold P. Lawson." Daniel grinned. Good old Harry. But when he looked up, his grin vanished. Judge Lawson wasn't on the bench. A different man sat there. A black man, mid-30s, sharp gray suit, calm expression, and something in his eyes, something cold and knowing, froze Daniel where he stood. "Good morning," the judge said evenly. "I'm Judge Reed. I'll be presiding over today's case." Daniel's stomach dropped. "Reed, Marcus Reed. No, it couldn't be." The courtroom fell silent as whispers spread. The same man Daniel had called hopeless was now the one holding the gavel. He wasn't just a client. He was a judge's boss, chief judicial counsel for the state's oversight committee, a man with the power to investigate, discipline, and remove judges, and, in some cases, lawyers. Daniel's palms began to sweat. He glanced at the clock, then at the opposing counsel, who looked like she was trying not to smile. It wasn't just bad luck. It was poetic justice. "Mr. Harkins," Judge Reed began, voice calm but deliberate. "Before we begin, I want to address something that happened yesterday." Daniel's throat tightened. "You met with a client," Reed continued. "A man you dismissed. A man you insulted." Daniel tried to speak. "Your Honor, I..." "Do not interrupt me," Reed snapped. The gavel hit wood. "Not again." The crowd murmured. Cameras flashed. Daniel's mind was spinning. How was this possible? Was this legal? Could he even rule in a case involving his own company? And yet, nobody moved to object. Reed turned to the courtroom. "For years," he said, "men like this have walked into rooms assuming power means character. Assuming arrogance equals intelligence." He looked back at Daniel. "But arrogance blinds. And today, we remove that blindness." He gestured to the clock. "Call the first witness." Daniel shuffled his papers, trying to steady his hands. He needed control, fast. He tried to object on procedural grounds, but Reed overruled him instantly. Then came the evidence. Emails, invoices, hidden payments. Things Daniel had never seen. Things someone must have leaked. He felt his face heat up as every secret, every manipulation, every unethical favor he'd made to climb the ladder came spilling out. The courtroom wasn't breathing. At one point, Reed leaned forward. "Tell me, Mr. Harkins," he said softly, "when you told that man he was hopeless, were you talking about his case? Or about him?" Daniel didn't answer, because now, for the first time in his career, there wasn't one. The story broke within hours. Headlines lit up. Star attorney exposed in courtroom shock. Racist lawyer humiliated by secret judge boss. Justice served, literally. By nightfall, Daniel's firm suspended him. His sponsors pulled out. His face was on every news cycle, every social feed, and every whisper across the legal circuit. But the real story, the dangerous one, wasn't what the public saw. It was what the FBI found buried beneath it all. 2 weeks later, agents raided Daniel's office. They found sealed documents, payments from shell companies, emails linking him to multiple corporate fraud cases. Apparently, someone had been watching him for months, and whoever it was knew exactly when to strike. A reporter tried to ask Judge Reed if he tipped him off. He didn't answer. He just smiled and said, "Justice has its timing." But then, something strange happened. One night, a court clerk named Lacey pulled up the case files from that hearing. Something didn't match. Judge Reed's judicial ID number, the one on the official order, was wrong, off by 1 digit. At first, she thought it was a typo. Then she looked deeper. The system had no record of any Judge Marcus Reed presiding that day. Not under state, not under federal. No signature match, no credentials, nothing. She froze. If the man who sentenced Daniel Hawkins wasn't an official judge, then who was he? The next morning, she tried to contact the courthouse security logs. The footage from that day? Deleted. Not corrupted, manually erased. And when she tried to reach the bailiff who'd been in the courtroom, his number was disconnected. No forwarding address. No trace. Meanwhile, Daniel Hawkins sat in a holding cell, awaiting trial for fraud and obstruction. He hadn't spoken since the day of his hearing. Not to reporters. Not to his lawyer. Not even to his wife. But one guard swore he heard him whisper something, just once, in the middle of the night. He said Hawkins looked up from his bunk and murmured. He wasn't a judge. Now, the state is re-examining the entire case. Was it revenge? A setup? Or something darker? Someone using the justice system as their own personal weapon? No one knows. But one thing's clear. The man they called hopeless was anything but. 2 months after Daniel Hawkins' arrest, the official investigation began, led by FBI agent Naomi Trent, a quiet but razor-sharp investigator with a reputation for exposing internal corruption. She didn't believe in coincidences. In this case, it reeked of something far deeper. Her first discovery hit hard. The entire courtroom that day had been booked under a closed federal order, but no one could produce a signature that authorized it. No clock, no digital key, no trace in the archive. Even worse, the supposed Judge Marcus Reed. No judicial record, no tax ID, no bar number. It was as if the man had appeared from thin air, then vanished. Agent Trent walked into the evidence room, flipping through photos from the day of the hearing. Every face cataloged, every frame time-stamped. But something was wrong. The timestamp froze 10:42 a.m. for exactly 13 seconds, then resumed. Security logs showed an interruption, a manual override from an unknown access card. Whoever orchestrated this wasn't just smart. They had authority, federal-level access, someone on the inside. Meanwhile, in the county jail, Daniel Hawkins wasn't sleeping. He sat in the dark, scribbling notes on torn sheets of paper, replaying the moment the judge said his name. Every word, every pause, every inflection. And then he remembered it. A single slip, not in tone, but in terminology. The man hadn't used a courtroom term. He'd used a military one. Stand down. Judges didn't say that. Soldiers did. Agent Trent dug deeper into Reed's background, if you could call it that. The alias Marcus Reed appeared 4 times across 4 different databases, each one attached to a fake ID, a prepaid phone, and a trail leading to a defunct intelligence training facility in Quantico. Then came the chilling connection. One of the shell companies tied to Hawkins' fraud case had been laundering money through federal contractor accounts, companies used for covert operations. So if Reed wasn't a judge, was he an agent? Naomi met with her supervisor in D.C. He was cautious, too cautious. Agent Trent, he said, "You're walking into a hornet's nest. Whoever did this is federal clearance." She leaned forward. "Then that means it's our mess to clean up." But the supervisor only sighed. "Close the file. That's an order." she didn't. That night, Naomi drove to an abandoned training complex 2 hours outside Quantico. The place had been shut down 5 years ago after an internal incident. She pried open a side door, flashlight cutting through the dust. Every room empty, except one. A single desk, a folder, and a photograph. It showed the judge standing beside Daniel Hawkins. Different time, different setting. Hawkins looked younger, smiling, hand on the man's shoulder. On the back of the photo, one line was written in blue ink. He taught me everything. Naomi's pulse quickened. If this was true, the man posing as Judge Reed hadn't been an enemy. He'd been his mentor, and now, maybe, his executioner. She searched the file. Inside was a short bio labeled Project Nemesis. It described a covert operation designed to expose corruption inside federal law enforcement and the judiciary by posing as judicial authorities. An infiltration program that had been disbanded for being too dangerous. At the bottom of the file was one name. Marcus A. Reed, field operative. Status, deceased. But Naomi had seen him. In court. Alive. 3 nights later, someone broke into Naomi's apartment. No forced entry. No missing items. Just a single envelope on her desk. Inside was a flash drive. She plugged it in. A single video file loaded, time-stamped 2 months before the fake trial. It showed Marcus Reed, alive, sitting in a dimly lit motel room. He stared straight into the camera. "If you're watching this," he said, "they've buried the truth again. The system's infected from the inside. Hawkins isn't the only one. He's part of a chain. Judges, lawyers, police chiefs, all working to keep each other untouchable. I couldn't go through channels, so I built my own courtroom." He paused. "I didn't fake justice. I forced it." Naomi's breath caught. Reed had built a fake trial. A full courtroom. Actors, agents, even a fake bailiff, all to expose one man. A setup, yes, but one that uncovered real crimes. She played the next clip. It showed a hidden camera feed from Hawkins' office. He was on a call, voice low, muttering about paying off a Chief Davis and a shipment that couldn't be traced. Proof. The corruption Reed had hinted at. It was bigger than anyone imagined. Naomi took the flash drive straight to internal affairs. But when she arrived, the director's office was empty. Lights off, door unlocked. On the desk lay a newspaper clipping. Headline: FBI agent found dead in motel fire. Body believed to be Marcus Reed. Same night as his death. Same motel from the video. Only one thing didn't match. The body in the photo was white. Now Naomi knew she wasn't chasing a ghost. She was chasing a man who erased himself. A man who turned the system against itself. A man who faked his own death to keep fighting corruption from the shadows. But the deeper she looked, the closer the danger crept. Her phone glitched. Her email froze. Her access was revoked. And then, one final message appeared on her monitor. No sender. No address. Just 6 words. "Next courtroom's yours, Agent Trent." Emma. Naomi stared at the screen, heart pounding. Outside, a black sedan idled under the streetlight. 2 silhouettes inside, watching. She closed her laptop, grabbed her badge, and whispered, "Let's finish this." The sedan outside Naomi Trent's apartment didn't move for 23 minutes. Just idled. Headlights off. 2 men inside, both wearing suits. Naomi sat motionless, lights out, watching them through the blinds. Her pulse matched the hum of the car engine. When she finally blinked, the car was gone. And that was when she knew. She wasn't investigating anymore. She was being hunted. By morning, she'd packed everything into a duffel. Laptop, flash drive, burner phone, and one folder labeled Project Nemesis. The folder that shouldn't exist. The one that said Marcus Reed was dead. But dead men don't send messages. Her contact inside internal affairs, a jittery tech named Eli, met her at a diner off Route 7. Rain streaked the windows as he slid into the booth. His eyes darted around the room. "Trent, you didn't get this from me," he whispered, pulling out a flash drive of his own. "What is it?" "Traffic cam feeds. 2 nights ago, your name was flagged on a federal list. An authorized surveillance order." "From who?" Eli hesitated. Deputy Chief Harold Miles. Naomi froze. Miles, the same man who'd mentored Reed 15 years earlier. The same man Reed once accused of selling badges for silence. Naomi's brain raced. If Miles had issued that order, then Reed's war wasn't over. It was still going. She opened Eli's flash drive that night in an old motel room outside Richmond. On it, surveillance stills of Reed, alive, taken just 3 weeks earlier. Longer hair, beard, but unmistakable. He was walking beside someone Naomi recognized instantly, Chief Samuel Davis, the same police chief who'd been arrested for murder in another case, the same man whose charges had mysteriously been dropped. "Reed, what the hell are you doing with him?" she whispered. The footage showed them talking beside a black SUV. Then Reed handed Davis a folder. Davis nodded. Handshake. End of footage. No timestamp. No location. Just coordinates embedded in the file's metadata. A storage yard on the edge of Norfolk. 2 nights later, Naomi was there. Cold air. Rusted fences. Her flashlight sliced through rows of shipping containers. She reached the one marked 12A. Inside, a makeshift office. Laptop, documents. And on the wall, a map with red strings connecting dozens of names. Judges, officers, politicians. At the center was a single photo of Deputy Chief Harold Miles. Pinned next to it, scribbled in black marker, "The one who buried me." Naomi exhaled. Marcus Reed wasn't hunting criminals. He was hunting traitors. And he wasn't finished. Behind her, a metallic click. She turned slowly. A man stepped out of the shadows. Gray hoodie, scar over his right eyebrow. Eyes sharp, calm. "Marcus Reed. I was hoping it to be you," he said softly. Naomi's hand hovered near her gun. "You're supposed to be dead." He smirked. "So are a lot of people who tell the truth." She studied him. "Why send me the drive?" "Because you're clean, and because I needed you to find this." He gestured to the map. "You think Chief Davis was a villain? He's a puppet. Miles owns them all. The entire chain of command." Naomi's voice hardened. "You can't play God, Reed." He took a step closer. "I'm not playing God. I'm finishing what they started. You think the FBI wants justice? They want containment. They protect power, not truth." Before Naomi could respond, her burner phone buzzed. Unknown number. One text. "They know you're with him. Get out." Her blood went cold. She looked back up. Reed was already packing files into a duffel. "How did they find us?" she hissed. He didn't look up, because Miles is 3 moves ahead. Is the kind of man who shakes your hand while marking your grave. He tossed her a small drive. Everything you need to prove it's him. Bank routes, payoffs, internal messages. "Then come with me," she said. Reed shook his head. Someone has to stay behind and slow them down. Footsteps outside, engines rumbling, flashlights cutting through the yard. Naomi backed toward the rear door. "Reed!" He turned, eyes soft now. "Remember what I told you. Truth isn't meant to be safe. It's meant to be seen." Then he pulled the emergency latch on the propane tank beside the desk. "Go!" Naomi ran. A flash, a soundless explosion, fire lighting up the night sky. She hit the ground as debris rained down around her. When she looked back, the container was gone. And so was Marcus Reed. 3 days later, Naomi sat in a secure office in D.C., face pale, eyes hollow. She'd turned over the drive. The evidence inside was nuclear. Emails, wire transfers, blackmail logs, even links to missing evidence in the Samuel Davis case. But when she checked the federal database that morning, every file was marked classified. Access revoked. Her clearance terminated. The truth had been buried again. Naomi drove to a quiet overlook above the Potomac that night. City lights shimmered below. Her phone buzzed once more. Unknown number. A video. She opened it. It was grainy, but clear enough. Marcus Reed, alive, standing in what looked like a bunker. Behind him, a wall of screens, each showing live feed from courtrooms, police stations, and federal offices. "Naomi," his voice echoed through the speaker. "You were right. The law can't save itself, but maybe we can rebuild it. He leaned forward. Keep watching the judges. The next one's already wearing a mask. Static. Screen black. Naomi stared at her reflection in the dark screen, her heart thudding. Then she whispered, "Who's next?" The camera panned out slowly. Headlights approached in the distance. A familiar black sedan stopping just behind her car. Door opens. Footsteps. A voice from the dark. "Agent Trent, you're under investigation." The agents didn't say a word when they cuffed her. They didn't have to. Naomi Trent could read their eyes. Cold, rehearsed, trained to see her as a problem, not a person. The black sedan hummed through the city. Tinted windows reflecting flashing lights in silence. No radio. No small talk. Just a quiet hum of authority pretending to be justice. When they finally stopped, she realized where they brought her. Not a station. Not an interrogation room. But a courthouse. At 3 a.m. Two men escorted her through a service elevator, down a corridor lined with marble and silence. Her boots echoed on the floor, the only sound. A door opened. Inside, one long table. No cameras, no badges on the wall. 3 people sat waiting. Middle seat, Judge Holloway, a federal circuit judge with a reputation for being untouchable. To his left, Deputy Chief Harold Miles. And on the right, a man Naomi didn't recognize. Smooth suit, no ID, just a gold ring with the engraving of a scale tipped to one side. Miles spoke first. "Detective Trent, or should I say, Agent Trent now? We've been following your work." She kept her jaw tight. Following or obstructing? A smirk. "Depends who you ask." Judge Holloway leaned forward, his voice calm but hollow. "You've accessed classified data, collaborated with a known fugitive, and interfered with a federal investigation. You understand how serious this is?" Naomi stared him down. "I understand what corruption looks like when it hides behind robes." The unknown man chuckled softly. "Fiery. I like that. You remind me of Reed." Her stomach twisted. "You knew him?" He smiled. "Oh, I still do." The lights dimmed. A monitor flickered on behind them. Footage appeared, grainy, infrared. Marcus Reed, alive, sitting across a metal table from Judge Holloway. The timestamp read 12 hours ago. Naomi's heart pounded. "You have him." Holloway didn't blink. He surrendered. "Why?" "Because he's not fighting us," Holloway said slowly. "He's joining us." Naomi's mind screamed no. She'd seen Reed die, or thought she had. "He would never," she said. Miles laughed quietly. "You think you know him? You know the soldier, not the strategist." Marcus Reed understood something you still don't. There's no cleaning the system. There's only controlling it. The unknown man slid a file across the table. "Inside are your charges, but also an offer." Naomi didn't touch it. "Join us," he said. "You're talented. Idealistic. We could use that. You help us keep balance. The public stays blind, and you stay alive." She looked between them. Holloway's emotionless stare, Miles's quiet smugness, the ringed man's snake-like grin. Then she whispered, "You think you're a syndicate of judges, but you're just criminals who learned Latin." The man's smile faded. "Wrong answer." They took her to a holding cell. Sterile, windowless, humming with faint static from the vents. No clock, no sense of time. But she wasn't alone. A voice spoke from the shadows. "Did you take the deal?" Naomi froze. "Reed." He stepped into the light, older, wearier, but alive. "Don't look so shocked. Death's overrated." She wanted to shout, to hit him, to demand the truth. Instead, she whispered, "You were working with them." He shook his head slowly. "Working against them, from inside." Naomi's eyes narrowed. Then why did Holloway say? He thinks he's in control. Is not. The syndicate runs through judges. Yes, but they have something bigger. A digital court, an invisible network that decides who gets justice and who disappears. She frowned. A network? He nodded. They call it the bench. Every verdict, every police transfer, every leak. It all passes through the encrypted servers first, and Holloway's just one of 12. Naomi stepped closer. Then we take them down. Reed's eyes darken. You don't understand. They don't just destroy careers. They erase people, change records, rewrite rulings, swap fingerprints. When the bench decides someone's guilty, reality adjusts to match. Her voice cracked. Then how are you still alive? I'm not. Not legally. My death certificate's on file. My fingerprint belonged to a man who never existed. That's what they do. Before Naomi could respond, the door hissed open. 2 guards entered. Judge Holloway wants a prisoner. Reed's hand brushed hers as they pulled her out. Don't look for me again. Just find file B9 in the bench archives. That's where this all started. His voice dropped to a whisper. And Naomi, don't trust anyone who still wears a badge. The guards shoved her into the corridor. By the time she looked back, Reed was gone. Hours later, she was released. No charges, no explanation. Just her gun, her badge, and a single keycard in her pocket she didn't remember having. On it, one word, B9. That night, she drove to an abandoned courthouse on the outskirts of D.C., one slated for demolition years ago but still guarded by a single security light. She used the card on the underground access panel. It clicked. The door slid open into a long corridor lit by blue LED strips. Rows of servers hummed around her. On a nearby terminal, a digital logo pulsed. Scales hashed the bench. Her hand trembled as she typed the code Reed had once mentioned in passing, 0909. The screen unlocked. Thousands of files filled the display. Judges' names. Trial outcomes altered. Evidence logs rewritten. Dozens of deceased individuals marked with a note. Resurrected by clearance. And among them, her own name. Naomi Trent. Status, deceased. The terminal flickered. Someone else had logged in remotely. A message appeared on the screen. You shouldn't have come here. Then another. We see you. The lights dimmed. Footsteps echoed from the corridor. But just when the weight of justice seemed to fall, the lights flickered. Once. Twice. Then went out completely. A collective gasp filled the darkness. Shuffling. Chairs scraping. Someone screamed. Then a sound. A voice. Low, raspy, coming from the front of the courtroom. You think justice ends here. When the lights flicked back on, the laptop screen on the prosecution table was glowing. A video file had appeared. No one had opened it. Its title read, The Grafton Files, Part 1. Naomi whispered, What the hell is that? Marcus moved closer. The video played automatically. The screen showed an old man, white hair, hollow eyes, speaking into a recorder. If you're seeing this, they've already turned on each other. My name is Chief Justice Howard M. Grafton. I was one of them. We built the syndicate to control the courts. We thought we could contain the system until it started consuming us. The men you just convicted were the apprentices. The real architects are still in power. The room froze. Every journalist, every cop, every juror, speechless. Marcus stared, unblinking. And if Marcus Reed is still alive, Grafton's voice continued. Tell him it's not done. He just opened the first door. The file cut off abruptly. The laptop powered down by itself. Then silence again. Only this time, it wasn't relief. It was dread. Naomi's phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. You want truth. Marcus? Come to room 107, under the old courthouse. Midnight. Attached was a photo. Grainy, dark, but clear enough to see. A man in a black robe. The face partly obscured. But the nameplate on the desk in front of him read, Judge Grafton. Marcus turned to Naomi. If that man's alive, then everything we've done means nothing. Naomi nodded slowly. Then it's time to meet the ghost. Marcus looked once more at Holloway, Pike, and Rhodes, all being led away in cuffs, faces drained to power. He whispered, You may have buried justice, but justice learns how to dig. It was 11:47 p.m. when Marcus Reed parked his car across from the old courthouse. The night was heavy with fog, the kind that swallowed light whole. Every window in the courthouse was dark. except one, a faint glow from the basement level, like a candle flickering deep inside a tomb. He looked at Detective Naomi Trent, sitting in the passenger seat, hands tied around a flashlight. "You sure about this?" she whispered. Marcus nodded once. The message said midnight. If this is real, it ends tonight. Naomi exhaled slowly. Oh, it begins again. They stepped out, footsteps echoing across the wet pavement. The courthouse loomed above them, a black stone relic that smelled of rain and secrets. The side entrance creaked open when Marcus pushed. No security, no guards, just silence. The same courtroom where they just exposed 3 corrupt judges now stood empty, like a stage after the actors had died. Marcus led the way down a narrow corridor that twisted beneath the main chambers. Old portraits lined the walls, judges from centuries past, their painted eyes following every move. This place shouldn't even exist, Naomi muttered. The blueprints don't show a basement. Marcus pointed to a rusted elevator door with a faded number plate, 107. He pressed the button. Nothing. Then, a soft click. The doors slid open on their own. Inside, the air was colder, too cold for an underground space. A soft hum vibrated through the floor, like machinery running deep below. When the doors closed, the elevator began descending, slowly. No numbers on the panel, just darkness around them. Naomi's voice was barely a whisper. This is insane. Marcus's gaze stayed forward. It's not insanity, it's design. The doors opened to a long concrete tunnel. Fluorescent lights buzz above, half of them flickering, the others dim like dying stars. On the far wall, etched in metal letters, read, Judicial Oversight Committee, Confidential Archive. Naomi stepped closer. This can't be real. The committee was disbanded 20 years ago. Marcus pressed his hand against the steel door. It opened with a hiss, revealing a massive chamber filled with rows of filing cabinets, recorders, and screens still playing footage. Each monitor showed courtroom scenes from around the country, judges, trials, juries. Except these weren't live feeds. They were recordings, secret ones. Naomi approached one of the screens. It showed Judge Holloway years earlier, meeting with a man whose face was blurred. Money exchange hands. The screen labeled the file, Grafton, Session 4. They were recording themselves. Naomi said, stunned, "Why keep this?" Marcus moved toward the far corner where a desk sat under a single hanging bulb. On it, a folder labeled Marcus Reed, Project Restoration. He opened it. Inside were memos, photos of his arrest, his promotion, even surveillance shots of his home, months before any of this began. "Naomi," he said quietly, "they knew about me, long before I ever knew them." A sudden clatter echoed through the hall. Footsteps, slow, purposeful. Naomi spun around, flashlight raised. From the shadows emerged a man, tall, white hair slicked back, eyes pale and hollow. Judge Howard M. Grafton, the ghost judge, very much alive. "You shouldn't have come here," Grafton said softly. His voice was calm, but behind it was something else, something ancient. "We gave you a chance to rebuild, Marcus. You were meant to replace them, not destroy them." Marcus's heartbeat thundered. "Replace them? What are you talking about?" Grafton stepped closer. The syndicate wasn't born for corruption. It was born for control. The system breaks men like you unless it owns them. We wanted balance, power in the right hands. Naomi scoffed. "You call that balance? You murdered people." Grafton didn't even flinch. Collateral truth. He turned to Marcus. "You think exposing us makes you free? You've already been chosen. Your conviction, your downfall, your return, it was all written." Marcus's voice trembled with anger. "You used me." "We built you," Grafton said, smiling faintly. "You were supposed to be the next architect, but instead, you became the spark." He handed Marcus a small key card. "If you want to finish this, go to the chamber at the end of the hall. Insult this, then decide if justice deserves saving." Then he toned, walking back into the shadows. Gone, as if he'd never existed. Naomi looked at Marcus. "We're not seriously going to." "We have to," he interrupted. If there's more to this, it has to end. They followed the tunnel to a massive steel door marked Judicial Core. Marcus slid the key card into the reader. The lights around the frame pulsed red, then green. The door creaked open, releasing a gust of cold air that carried the faint hum of electricity. Inside, a circular room lined with old computers, server racks, and thousands of cables feeding into a single terminal in the center. On the screen were hundreds of court records, verdicts, and names, some crossed out, some highlighted. Naomi scanned one entry aloud. Verdict adjustments. Jury manipulation logs. Marcus whispered. They controlled everything. Then a line of text appeared on the monitor. Welcome, Judge Reed. Naomi froze. What did it just call you? Marcus stepped closer. The monitor displayed a document with his name already typed under Judicial Administrator, Level 7 clearance. No, he muttered. They built this for me. The lights dimmed again. The same voice from the video echoed through hidden speakers, Grafton's voice. Every generation, the Syndicate needs new blood. You sought truth, Marcus. But truth without control is chaos. Join us, or destroy what remains. Naomi whispered, "Is giving you a choice." Marcus's hand hovered over the keyboard. If he accepted, he could rewrite the system. If he refused, he could shut it down forever. He typed a single word, delete. The system began flashing red. Warning, total archive erasure in progress. Alarms blared. The server sparked. Marcus grabbed Naomi's hand. Run! They sprinted down the corridor as fire erupted behind them. The entire chamber was collapsing. The ghost of justice, burning. They burst out of the courthouse doors just as the basement exploded in a plume of fire and smoke. Marcus turned, watching centuries of corruption crumble. But from across the street, through the haze, he saw him, Grafton, standing still, smiling. He raised a single hand in a slow salute, then vanished into the smoke. The verdict of silence. The gavel struck once, then silence. Marcus Reed stood motionless as the echoes faded. Richard Hale, the man who once mocked him, manipulated the system, and silenced victims, now sat trembling in the defendant's chair. The courtroom that had once sneered at Marcus was now hanging on his every word. Judge Vance's voice trembled slightly as he read the verdict. Guilty on all counts. The air felt heavier. Years of corruption unraveled in a single sentence. Cameras flashed. Reporters surged forward. But Marcus didn't smile. He just closed his eyes and whispered, "Justice, finally!" In the back of the courtroom, Lisa Monroe wiped away a tear. The bailiff gave a small nod, quiet respect from one man of integrity to another. And as Richard Hale was led away in cuffs, Marcus looked toward the bench, at Judge Vance, whose eyes said what her lips couldn't. Thank you for forcing the truth into the light. Outside the courthouse, the crowd waited. Rain poured, mixing with flashing lights. But for the first time, the storm didn't feel like chaos. It felt like cleansing. Marcus walked down those courthouse steps, coat fluttering, knowing one thing. This wasn't the end. Because every truth uncovered only leads to another buried deeper. If stories like this hit you, if they make you feel something, then don't just scroll away. White right pointing backhand index subscribe now to Crime Shock Files. Because truth deserves a voice. More stories are coming. And trust me, the next one will shake you even deeper. Stay aware. Stay watching. And remember, in every shadow, truth still breathes.